what we aim to do is to make your life so easy that if you don't have Viber on your phone, you might as well throw away your smartphone. So finding businesses, paying friends, going out on dates, using everything with AI, which we'll talk about a bit later. So from messaging to everything you need to do to make your life simpler and easier in the area of communication, of course.
You announced partnership with OpenAI. Could you please elaborate on that? What does it mean?
Yes, I'm very happy to share about a partnership with OpenAI. So OpenAI is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, AI provider in the world. Their models are the best in the world, and we wanted to bring the best to our users. This partnership is talking about the ability to use all of OpenAI's great features, which is the LLMs for conversation and image generation, and everything that OpenAI has to offer will be available to Viber users inside Viber.
Hello again, the Recursive community. Welcome back to the Recursive Podcast. Today, we're in Sofia and we're having a very special guest. Ofir Eyal is the CEO of Viber. And I would like to give a couple of minutes for him to introduce yourself. What brought you to Sofia?
Thank you for having me. So, I'm very happy to be back at Sofia. I'm Viber CEO for the past 5 years. I've been with the company for 11 years. I'll share a bit later about my story, but what brings me now is we have a conference, we have this interview, we have a TV interview tomorrow, so it's somewhat of a media event for the company and for me to also meet our office. We have an office here with 25 employees. So it's always fun to see the people and see the Viber market.
Viber is primarily known as a messaging app. If we talk in a couple of years, what would you like people to know and use it for?
So messaging is how we grew. Messaging is a free service. Viber is a commercial company. So what we aim to do is to make your life so easy that if you don't have Viber on your phone, you might as well throw away your smartphone. So to make it a daily part of your life, so finding businesses, paying friends, going out on dates, using everything with AI, which we'll talk about a bit later. So from messaging to everything you need to do to make your life simpler and easier in the area of communication, of course.
I've read that in Asia that's quite popular and successful because you have strong markets in Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. What stops Europe to be on the same level, in your opinion?
Yes, so the concept of super app is not new. We didn't invent it. The super apps, the original super app is WeChat in China, and that is correct. Asia is the place where super apps grew the most. So with WeChat in China, Line in Japan, and Kakao in Korea. Those started because when originally the markets were not necessarily open, and plus they are islands both in a cultural manner and in a physical manner. Some of them are actual islands. So the fact that a messaging app kind of adds more services was very natural for them. In other parts of the world that are less islands, both metaphorically and physically, and the markets are more open, then we see an economy that's based on an app per use case. So we have an app for payments, we have an app for communication, we have an app for taxi hailing, and etc. And the concept didn't evolve as it did in the East. But what we're seeing in recent years is this back again, the need to go back and do things in a single app, which is very convenient. I'll give an example. So today, if we go out for drinks with friends at the evening and somebody needs to pay somebody, then they use a Viber group or a WhatsApp group or whatever group to organize the going out for drinks. And then if somebody needs to pay somebody, they need to go out to a payment application, they need to punch the number, they need to screenshot, and then they paste it back on their favorite messaging app. This scenario, we can envision it directly inside Viber, which is what is live now here in Bulgaria. And this whole process starts to be very, very seamless and very easy. And we know we're all very lazy these days, and usage flows wherever it's simplest.
We use AI now as a trendy word and dropping it in every conversation, but what does Viber AI solve for users right now?
So for us, it's very, very important that we, and this is part of what we're going to discuss during my entire visit here in Bulgaria, is that we're building AI for today's use cases, not for fantasies or prophecies or stories that might be relevant in the future. We are building for the users for today's use cases, which is, again, making their lives simpler and saving them time. So for example, if I want to talk for example, I came here and let's say my hotel wants to give me a notice in Bulgarian, but I don't read Bulgarian. We can use Viber and AI can translate the conversation, and we can have the conversation as if we were both speaking the same language. In the future, we'll add it to calls as well, so we can literally have a phone conversation and AI will translate in real time, so that's improving communication. We're adding features like polishing messages, so you want to make sure that you write something that sounds good and without any typos or mistakes. So AI can help with that and crafting a message to a colleague or a boss or a friend that you want to use it. The same way we use AI outside of messaging apps. So again, it's the same concept of like payments and messaging. The same goes with AI. So today, if I want to write a message which is very important to me, usually what I would do is I would go to my favorite AI app, I would write the message there, and then I would copy and paste it back into an email or a messaging app. When it's inside the messaging app, first of all, it's seamless, it's easier, and we said users go where it's easy, but also it has the context which I chose to share. So in this case, I don't have to, if I allow AI to read the messages of the chats, and it's up to the users to decide if they want to do this, but in this case, I don't have to describe an external AI application, the conversation and the context. It already knows the context of the conversation. It can help me phrase a reply or a response very, very fast and without having to explain it to a third party.
And we usually talk about innovation also as in the Recursive. We focus on that, but right now it's important also to focus on the ethical AI adoption. What does this mean for you and how do you ensure that?
So first of all, when we speak about efficacy is for us, it's similar to transparency. So all users need to opt in and they can opt out of AI features, and we inform them that this is going to happen if somebody, let's say in a group, decides that they don't want their messages to be processed by AI, or they don't want to touch AI at all, they want to use Viber the way it is now, then they have the option to say, opt me out of all AI features. So first of all, again, there's this transparency of notification and the ability to opt out, which is, again, I hope it will become more market standard across all apps, because a lot of the time we use an application, we don't know exactly, they don't tell us what's working in the background. So that's one. And second, I think we've been around for 15 years now, and we have a reputation, and we have our pledge to our users around security and safety, and we're here for another 15 years and more. So our users are more important for us rather than to making a quick profit. And I think that's the power of Viber. It's been here since the start of the mobile era, and we plan to stay for much more.
You announced partnership with OpenAI. Could you please elaborate on that? What does it mean?
Yes, I'm very happy to share about a partnership with OpenAI. So OpenAI is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, AI provider in the world. Their models are the best in the world. And we wanted to bring the best to our users. This partnership is talking about the ability to use all of OpenAI's great features, which is the LLMs for conversation and image generation, and everything that OpenAI has to offer will be available to Viber users inside Viber, and this will be free. So the users will not have to pay. Again, like I said, if somebody doesn't want to use it, it's their option. But with this, we're bringing the AI conversation or the AI tools to where it matters, to where it's relevant, to where you manage your life.
It sounds great, but talk to me how this came to be. What was the process of attracting OpenAI as partner, and why did you choose to go with them?
So I think the partnership is kind of made, it serves both companies, and it's a classic win-win because OpenAI is very big in Western countries, in the US and in Western Europe. But Viber is very big in other parts of the world. So we are big here in Eastern Europe, and we're big in Asia. And we also have a very large user base in Ukraine. And these are places where OpenAI doesn't have as large penetration as it has in the US. So for them, it's a way to reach these users, which are not necessarily using OpenAI. Some of them actually are not that tech savvy. So because Viber is so universally used by young people and old people and educated people and people that have more simple lives, not all of these people are exposed to AI because, for example, my mother, she's kind of a bit concerned about using an AI app, but if it's inside a messaging app, it kind of changes the sentiment. So Viber brings the distribution of both, again, geography, ages, and use cases to it, and OpenAI, they bring obviously the best models in the world.
Do you have any concerns with partnering with such a big partner as OpenAI?
So when you partner, there's always an element of risk because two different companies can have a different interest. But in this case, we saw that we are very, very much aligned. OpenAI are growing, we are growing, and while there's obviously nothing is kind of written in the stars in terms of the ability to know what's going to happen in 5 or 10 years, but for now, it seems like a very logical thing to do, and a very kind of bringing this to our users was the top of our minds, and we knew we had to bring one of the best AI companies to Viber users.
Mm-hmm. Do you plan to educate the users in some way? So as you said, like your mother is sometimes concerned about AI. We usually talk about companies' adoption of AI, but what about users' adoption?
So today, I can share, for example, we have some AI features in the app, but the adoption is below 10%. So we see that it's taking time. It's not necessarily because of people are concerned to use it, it's because it's not open in all territories, because of various reasons. And we roll out things gradually. So today, the vast majority of Viber users don't use AI, but I expect this within a matter of years, and not many years, so anywhere between 2 to 3 years, I expect this trend to reverse, and actually 90% to use AI features and 10% not to use. And we will do this the Viber way, so we inform users within the app, and we have these the graphical elements to make sure that even someone like my mother can understand easily how to use it.
Are you concerned that such big power is in the hands of just a couple of companies in the world?
Well, it's history shows us that this could be not ideal, but anything related to predictions around AI, I would be very foolish to make a prediction here. It's like we're talking about the future of work, right? All the AI companies up until a year ago, they said that that AI is going to take all our jobs, and now we're seeing just this month and last month, all the CEOs of AI companies are actually saying that AI will not replace our jobs, but would actually empower us to do more. So I think it won't be wise of me or anyone to predict where the market is going to go and where the risks are going to go and where it's going to come from.
And talk to me about the markets in Europe, because the Recursive is covering Central and Eastern Europe. We know Viber is quite strong in Bulgaria, but also in some other markets in Central Europe. How are you performing? Do you plan to expand on other European markets? So
Viber's strategy is adding services and making our existing users' lives simpler. So if we talk about Bulgaria, for example, but also Greece. So Greece is a similar penetration to Bulgaria. So almost 9 out of 10 smartphones will have Viber in similar countries. And the strategy is around servicing our existing users. Growth comes naturally when we make people's lives easier. They tell their friends, they tell their family, and they download it. But the strategy current doesn't mean going into a market which is not a Viber market and growing there just because and we can talk about economics of messaging apps. Messaging apps are free by definition. So the ability to use classical user acquisition or digital marketing that maybe a different type of app could use don't make sense for an app like Viber because we're offering a free service, which means the average revenue per users per user is very, very low, which means growth has to come from giving value to users and word of mouth and not via user acquisition or digital marketing.
And what's your business strategy? How do you earn revenue?
So the messaging and calls is free and will always be free. So we don't charge for the basic service. That service costs a lot to maintain it. I don't know if a lot of people know, but to service hundreds of millions of users costs tens of millions of dollars in server and infrastructure costs and engineers. So, by the way, and this is something to think about, if you're using a messaging app and you don't know who is subsidizing it or what is subsidizing it, that would be the time to be a bit cautious and suspicious of why are you getting this free service and how is it paid for. With Viber, it is paid via different types of revenue channels that we have. One of them is advertising. So Viber users, when they use the Viber app, they see ads either after calls or in the main chat screen. This is visible and transparent, so we don't hide the fact that we show ads. And we're not the only and probably not the last that are going to show ads as part of monetization. This is one revenue channel. The other is what we call business messages. It's people in Bulgaria, I assume, know what it is. It's an SMS replacement. Instead of getting an SMS with a promotion or a delivery notice or an appointment notice, you get this in Viber, and it's a very powerful tool because users like it more because with a Viber message you have a photo and a call to action, so you can actually interact with it, unlike an SMS. And advertisers like it better, and it costs less than an SMS. So it's like a triple win for both Viber, the user, and the advertiser in this case. So ads and business messages are a large part of how we make revenue today. And we are adding more services. So we launched dating a year ago, and it's also live here in Bulgaria. And we have a wallet that was also launched this year here in Bulgaria. And while peer-to-peer transfers is free, but in the future we can imagine business payments or other financial services which will have a charge to them. We'll make sure that it's very competitive, but that's how Viber is going to make money in the future.
Do you focus on some primary area? You mentioned you launched just dating, payments, etc. Like we know dating apps are currently struggling. Do you plan to keep all of those features, or? So
Viber today, as you imagined, and we use the term super app, but there's actually no recipe in how a super app looks like. Even if we go to Asia as we spoke, the three super apps look very different from each other. So there is no kind of one size fits all to how a super app should look like. And this is part of the innovation and experimentation that we're doing. So dating makes sense for us a lot for several reasons. A, because we already have the Viber users, so we don't need to spend money on user acquisition, but also, and primarily because we can offer things that dating apps cannot offer. So we already have our reputation. We already are dealing with spam and fraud and all the bad activity because we need to deal with them for Viber's purposes, so we can apply the same algorithms and same safety checks to dating users as well, obviously. And nobody wants to see their ex or their boss or their family in dating apps. And in Viber, you have all your contacts. So by us knowing who is your family, your boss, and your ex, we're able to not show them to you in the dating app, which is something we call it a killer feature because it's something very unique to Viber.
And how would you describe the success of Viber in Bulgaria and Greece?
You mean the reasons for the success?
Yeah.
Well, that's like the $1 million question. I would like to say that it's kind of, there is we executed on a plan and everything worked out as we planned, but as we know in business and entrepreneurship, it doesn't always work like you plan. So it's a combination of doing the right things and a combination of luck and timing. There are markets that are neighboring markets. So if we travel from Bulgaria to Romania, for example, we can see that there are practically not as many Viber users in terms to tell you that we know exactly why it's so big in Bulgaria but so little in Romania. I would be foolish to give a scientific explanation on why. Sometimes it's just being in the right place. And we know that's the nature of network effect-based applications. It's like a snowball. You start it and it grows and it grows, and a friend brings a friend. So it's a lot of the times it's kind of first to market. So whoever was first kind of gets 80% of the market, and the other remaining 20 is shared between the others. And sometimes it's, again, like forces of nature which are hard to explain, but obviously it's not only that. We are investing, for example, in Bulgaria, we have, like we said, we have employees here and we do marketing activities. And I'm participating in a conference tomorrow and I'm here today. So there are efforts that are specific to a market. And I think it's a combination of the strategy, the local efforts, and also sometimes plain luck.
And who is your biggest competitor in Bulgaria? Is there an analog of a super app, as you mentioned?
So there is no super app competition in Bulgaria, but the usual suspects as WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger are present here.
Well, most users are concerned about privacy. So you mentioned a couple of things, but how do you convince them that their data is safe?
So first of all, it's a good question because users perceive safety and security a bit different. And I think we spoke before, a bit before that users can perceive an app to be safe when in reality it's actually the opposite. And we have examples of this, of apps that you can search and buy for illegal things. So the average user might think that because the app is super safe, that's why he can do those illegal things, because it's protecting those bad players, when in reality it's the opposite. The bad players are in these apps because they don't get kicked out, while other apps will kick them out. So the winning security and privacy perception is a hard game. So it's a lot of sometimes there's a lot of psychology there and a lot of non practical things, but we obviously make sure to mention in every interview like this that Viber is end-to-end encrypted. It's owned by a Japanese company called Rakuten. Nobody has access to the messages, not even Viber employees. So even if somebody wanted to get it, the information is just not stored and not accessible. It's deleted from the device once the message is delivered. So we've been pledging this and saying this to users for the past, I think 10 years or 9 years since end-to-end encryption was standard at Viber. And I'm happy to say that end-to-end encryption is the default for all Viber chats. Again, unlike some other messaging apps where in order to activate end-to-end encryption, you have to go into a special setting and define, I want to start end-to-end encryption, which is, it's a bit funny if you ask me. It's kind of like if I would buy a new car and the car manufacturer would say, the car has an airbag, but if you want to use the airbag, you have to turn it on before every drive. And if you forget to turn it on, it won't function. Now, I guess the listeners and viewers can imagine why would a car manufacturer, what would be the reasons to design the system like that, so I'll leave it to people's imagination, but I can say that in Viber, 100% of personal chats are end-to-end encrypted by default without the ability even to turn it off.
Everything sounds great, but is there something that we should be concerned about?
Well, I think people should be concerned always, and some people would be paranoid and you could never satisfy them, and some people don't care and they write private stuff online and on social media, right? So I think there's a very, very wide kind of spectrum of, but I think, again, if you are in today's digital world of 2026, if you're using an app like Viber, which is end-to-end encrypted by default, I think that should be the least of your digital concerns. There are a lot of other places that if you are concerned that you should check, again, like other apps, like websites, like downloading pirate content, which exposes you. So there's a lot of things that you should be worried about first, more than your end-to-end encrypted messaging app.
I want to turn now more into your personal path. As you know, this podcast is listened by different founders, investors, so we really focus on people's personal path. What brought you to Viber? I know you passed through a couple of positions in Viber. Could you please share more about that?
Yes. So my journey in Viber was actually for me, it's an amazing journey. I started from a product manager. I joined as a regular product manager 11 years ago. It was after the acquisition by Rakuten, but I think even before Viber, I'll share a bit more. So I started in tech as a quality assurance engineer, a QA engineer. I always was kind of fascinated by computers, but I studied programming in high school, and I was a very lousy programmer. So thank God I didn't pursue that career. But I knew that I always want to be around technology. Prior to Viber, I worked at Citibank, so I worked in kind of a large institution, but in the tech division, and I wanted the ability to influence more users. So we had a very successful trading app at Citibank that I was the product manager of, and a success was the fact that we had a couple of thousands of institutional traders using the app. So it was thousands of users, and when I thought about changing careers, I thought, okay, I want to have maximum impact and influence on users, and at the time, there was no other app that had more users than Viber. So it was kind of natural to apply for the product management job. And that's when I was hired. I had experience with mobile applications from Citibank, so that helped, obviously. And so for me, it was very natural to try and see how this looks like. And product management, I can say, when you have so many users, it's very, very challenging, because on one hand, you want the app at those days and today as well, pretty much looks the same around the world. So it doesn't matter if you're an 80-year-old grandmother or a teenager that's 14 years old and in the Philippines versus somebody anywhere else, the app is the same. So the app has to cater to different ages, different cultures, different tech savviness. But on the other hand, you don't want the app to be super simple, as in to appeal to the most common denominator that anybody can understand, because then it has no rich functionality. And so the challenge is always how to make it as simple as possible, but as powerful as possible. And it's always some sort of balance. So I joined Viber at 2014. That was after the Rakuten acquisition, and shortly after, the original founders of Viber, they decided they want to go on to their next venture, as entrepreneurs usually do. They don't want to work for a large corporation. So I was promoted to head of product and then chief operating officer, and almost 5 years ago as CEO. And I'm very grateful for this.
And you said you have been always close to tech. Have you ever thought of starting your own company?
So in the past, no. I always kind of in my mindset is more structured and kind of seeing a fixed problem and solving it. But in the future, I'm old enough to know that never say never is the rule. So in the future, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Does it help that you are not the founder of this company, actually, to be the CEO?
Well, there is this saying of founder CEOs, and I think for me it helps me look in my management style. It's very pragmatic, and I try not to mix emotions with business decisions. So I assume it helps me, but there are a lot of entrepreneurs that are great CEOs. So I don't think I can generalize around here.
Was there any specific hard leadership decision that you had to do over the past couple of years when you're CEO that you would like to share with our viewers?
So we had I don't know if the listeners are aware of this, but we at the evening of the break of the Russia-Ukraine war, when Russia invaded Ukraine, Viber had 40% of users and revenue coming from those two countries. So at that point in time, overnight, Viber was kind of turned from profit-making to loss-making, because two of our biggest markets were at war overnight. And there were a lot of hard decisions there, like in terms of, do we scale down the operation? What do we do with the people that work on this? Eventually, We did scale it down, but it was very, very little compared to the hits that we received. So we decided to keep most of the people and most of the operation and divert it into other avenues. That's where the idea to do dating was born. We needed to reinvent ourselves after having lost almost 40% of our audience. Again, obviously, I'm happy that we remained in Ukraine, and in Russia we are blocked today. But at that time, obviously, showing advertisement at the eve of a war breaking down was irrelevant. So we had to find other avenues to keep the company profitable.
Right. And do you plan to start new features in the upcoming year or coming?
New features?
Yeah.
So I think what we have now, and again, we have to remember, Viber is a 600 employee company, which is, I don't know if it sounds a lot or small, but compared to the fact that we service hundreds of millions of users, there aren't a lot of companies that serve hundreds of millions of users with only 600 employees. When I worked at Citibank, there were 500,000 employees serving 200 million bank accounts, right? So the ratio of employee to users is very unique to Viber. So I think what we're doing today of these kind of mini startups, we have like a mini dating company and a small business company and an ads company and a messaging company that are all obviously teams within the Viber company. I think that this spread is the right spread. We might change and decide to double down on some features or maybe abandon them, but for now, what we're doing is taking all these pieces, which is now AI, dating, businesses, fintech, and pushing them, and so that's our future.
We really try to be helpful for leaders, for founders, for CEOs with this podcast. So maybe you can share a couple of personal features, trends that helped you throughout the way as a CEO.
So I think that I see people that sometimes they plan too much. So I never had a plan when I joined Viber 11 years ago. I never had a plan to be CEO. So it wasn't that it was planned for. Every role that I did it at the best way that I could. And I always thought, okay, what's the unique value that I can bring? So even when I was a quality assurance engineer, I understood that the job is not only to find the bugs, but it's also to provide kind of peace of mind to management. And when I was a product manager, the job is not only to define the product specifications, it's to progress business for the company. And another thing is that I think, and I see this with the younger generation, where you sometimes would offer somebody to take a new role or a new responsibility, and the response would sometimes be, well, what do I get out of this now? So are you going to give me a raise now, or when I'm going to, or a title? And I understand people want to progress, but what worked for me is first to do the job, so to give first and get later. And again, I obviously understand people don't want to feel exploited, but in business, what I have learned is that you first have to put in the work and deliver the results, and the money and the titles and the roles, they come afterwards. And sometimes I see young people kind of switching the order there.
Great. Yeah, I think that's a great recap and finish of our conversation. But still, if you want to share a short message for our viewers until next time you're in Sofia.
No, I don't have anything special. I think I would like to thank you guys here, but also thank the people of Bulgaria and the people of Sofia specifically, because as we said before, Bulgaria is very close to our hearts. Out of all the Viber markets, it is one of those markets where we have an office, and it's a Viber market. So it's always cool for me as CEO to come here, to hear the Viber ringtone in the street, and then go to a Viber office, and then go to talk about Viber in a podcast and in a conference. So I'm very grateful and happy to be here.
Thank you for joining our podcast.
Thank you.